Braveheart Workshops, inspiring connection. Restore, renew, and reconnect in community. Live well, laugh often, love much. Join our online connection circles. Be empowered in our virtual live events. Be a guest on our podcast shows. Hire us or be hired for speaking engagements. Enhance hope, health, and healing in your lives. Creating global connections. The Connection Show, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. Braveheart Workshops, The Connection Show, live with Jill Reynolds. Renew, restore, and reconnect in community. Sponsored by Braveheart Workshops. And joining me today from the West Coast is Stacey Hall. Welcome to the show, Stacy.
Jill, it's a real delight to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. And I would love the audience to know a little bit about you. So Stacey Hall's passion is to help women entrepreneurs who feel frustrated that they have not been able to make a difference for others they want to make. She is the best-selling author of 2 global #1 best-selling books, Attracting Perfect Customers and She to Be. Stacy is also the producer of the Power of Yes compilation book series, and she treasures this acknowledgment she received from a publisher that said, "You are one of the most dynamic people I have encountered on the internet." Her Go for Yes fun 4-step strategy makes it possible for women entrepreneurs to find their voice, be in alignment with their audience, solve the problems of their audience, and leave a legacy that lives on long after they're gone. She shares her home with her husband Bill and 2 pups named Lucy and Frankie, who demand lots of cuddle time and attention. So thank you so much for that wonderful bio, and such an amazing woman you are.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that compliment very much.
Well, one of the things we love to do, Stacy, on the Connection Show, people always say to me when they're going to be on the show, "What questions should I be prepared for?" And I said, nothing, just show up and be you. And the reason I say that is the Connection Show is all about connecting the audience to the people who I interview through connecting of dots. Like you said, leaving a legacy is so important. I believe legacy happens in all of our lives, where you can take legacy all the way back ancestrally and generationally. I've done a lot of work on this with legacy burden work. So in my show with the Connection Show, Stacy, I love to begin my interviews on a journey with my guests by asking if you'd be willing to be as transparent as you feel comfortable in taking us back into your childhood of what it was like growing up as a little girl, Stacy, what your life was like, and then what in your life led you into the field you're in today.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and not being prepared on what comes up for me first. When I say not prepared, because you didn't tell me you'd be asking me that. What comes up for me first is just in honor of my father, whose birthday it is today. Mm-hmm. What I remember was my father, who wanted to be a geologist, and yet there were no jobs for geologists that he could find at the time. In order to support his family, he became a salesperson because everybody said he's so good with people, which he was. My father was very, very good with people. The problem was he was not a good salesperson because he really could not do the things that salespeople were told to do, and which was prepare to do battle with his customers. And so he would always try to find the win-win, and his companies weren't all that happy with him. And he would start the day excited and come home dejected. And that might not be what you were expecting me to share, but this is what is prominent and why what I do today, and people finding their voice and being able to grow a business as an entrepreneur means that we have to wear every hat at some point or another. And to be dejected in our sales approach will have an effect on every other part of our business. So I help people be in alignment with who they are and attract people who are their ideal audience, who they can actually help. Do it in conjunction, not as warfare, and as a result, have sales satisfaction and success. And so my father was taught to go for no, and I created my go for yes approach, which is the legacy I'm leaving to the world.
That's great. That's great information. Well, I don't know if you know this or not, Stacy, but I was in outside sales for 39 years myself and works for some very highly successful corporations that did intensive corporate trainings. And so, of course, in my boot camp trainings, they always taught us how to turn someone's no into a yes and how you were able to do that successfully. Um, and so I have a whole story which we can share off screen of what happens when you're trying to take someone's no away from them into a yes, which is really a fascinating story, but we can share that at a later time. So I'm sorry for that. It's kind of strange that today's February 11th and we're talking about your dad today. My birthday happens to be tomorrow. So,
Well, happy early birthday.
well, thank you. And so, share a little bit about your mom then, with your father being in this role. What was your mother like and what type
I'm
of things did she do?
Well, Jill, I have a request from my mother that I do not talk about her
Ah,
on. Okay, so I'm just going
okay.
to say that I'm very grateful to both of my parents for raising me. I have very wonderful parents, and I'm very grateful for that. And out of recognizing that I've been interviewed many times, and my mother has asked me in the past to leave her out of my interviews, I'm going to honor that choice.
Well, that's good. That's taking her yes and taking that yes to battle for herself. So in this realm of what you are doing, Stacy, have you always been in this realm of sales yourself? So what type of career path have you been on that led you into what you're doing as of today?
Well, my parents did raise me. I'll say this. My parents raised me to be very concerned about the world and about the community I live with in and of people. Like I was raised that human rights are God-given rights and that all people are equal. And so I'm very grateful for that upbringing. And so what was interesting is when I was 12 years old, they went on a vacation, my parents on their own, and I got to stay with an aunt for a couple of weeks. And she was the head of public relations for Sanyo Electronics, which I don't think is in the United States anymore or got bought out along the way somewhere. And she was the head of PR. And the way that company practiced public relations, they took a certain percentage of the company's funds, put it over to do good works in the world, and she got to manage those good works and then also write about it and get publicity. So they didn't just do it just to be good. They wanted some goodwill about the company out there. That being able to do the good works part and write about it, because I love to write, that was it. So when I was 12 years old, I knew that I was going to be going into public relations. Well, I did. I got my degrees. I got a degree in PR, marketing, advertising, radio, and television production, so that I had all aspects around me. And I went off into the world to do what she did, 9 years, almost 10 years prior to that, and found out that everything had changed. Companies were now more enamored of the publicity and not so much the good works. And I then had a career shift because I knew, they talk about fake news today, Jill. Well, I got a few years on me. That's nothing new. It's been around for decades. People don't know you trade favors to get something into the news. There's, even journalists in the field, as much as they would love to create something objective and new, it's edited and determined by the people back in the newsroom.
Well, that's funny you say that, Stacy, because I in the 70s got into radio as well. I worked at one of the number one rock and roll radio stations in San Diego, KPRI, in the 70s, and my roommate was the number one disc jockey. So she emceed all the concerts in San Diego, and I was good friends with all of the record and radio label people in Los Angeles, and so I was a promotion assistant at KPRI too, and did promotions and Halloween charity balls, and in fact, I remember having to interview Jerry Brown, believe it or not, back in the 70s.
Well, I know. Hold on, my internet connection's unstable, which is unusual. So I'm going to make sure. Can you keep talking? I'm going to make sure this works.
It's
so keep
okay.
on going.
It flashes like that almost every time I do a Zoom, so don't even be concerned about it. I think we'll be completely fine. But yeah, I remember having to learn the word community ascertainment and having to call Jerry Brown's office to talk to his admin and say that I needed Jerry Brown to come into the radio station to do a community ascertainment because it was imperative that we got him on record. And I am not exaggerating. I was able to get his admin to clear his schedule to come to the station within 48 hours. And I just pat myself because how you got at that time I think he was the mayor of San Diego. He's the governor now. Yeah, but it was, I did that and then had the Halloween charity ball. But what I remember, so I definitely want to come back to you. I remember in radio probably was similar to TV, probably a little bit more crazy in the 70s, but in the 70s to get your record played, everything was payola. And back in the 70s, it was all cocaine. In the 70s,
I didn't deal with that.
but the 70s, it was cocaine payola to get your record played.
Yeah.
For the bands. It was just crazy. And I saw that all the time. So I can definitely relate to that. So we probably have crossed some paths in California with.
Well, I was in Chicago when I first came out of school, and I actually went to work for a publicity company. And for 7 months, I was the one we handled the publicity for all the plays and concerts that came into town. So
in
yes,
Chicago?
I was around in Chicago. Yeah,
What-
I won't
what-
name the name of the company. That's not
That's okay.
appropriate for me to do that.
What year was that, may I ask?
I came out of school 79.
Okay.
So 79 to 80. And that's what I did. And so while I also worked on the ad campaigns, I was the one who doled out the tickets. So if you promoted the play or the concert, you came to Stacy and she would give you the tickets. And I thought, this is not what I went to school for. So getting back to what you had asked me about why I do what I do now, I decided with the training that I had to go into advertising, because at least in advertising, everybody knows the company's paying for what you're hearing. It doesn't look like it's actually news. And I was an advertising account executive for 5 years, and it turned out to be far more honest than public relations. And I loved it. And I was taken away to be the head of marketing for Budget Rent-A-Car Corporation for the United States and Canada. And then from there, I was invited to come and head up 17 states of marketing for Federal Express, which was
so were you out of Naperville then with Budget?
Yes, my office was out of Naperville.
And then with FedEx?
No, with Budget, excuse me, the exact opposite. I was on Michigan Avenue in Chicago with Budget. I think they moved out to the suburbs after that, but we were on Michigan Avenue. But funny that you would say Naperville, because I worked out of Naperville when I was with Federal Express. I was out of Chicago and then out of Minnesota as well.
You and I could have a blast together with nostalgia. I'm telling you, because I'm a Chicago native, and so before I moved to San Diego and got into radio there, I lived in my first place. I lived was in Old Town in Chicago in 1972. And my roommate back then was a Playboy bunny, and so we had carte blanche to Hef's mansion. And so I got to be really good friends then with Jam Productions, Celebration, Triangle, Howard Stein. And so
Yep.
I knew, yeah, I was really good friends with
Then
Jerry
you would know a lot
Michelson.
of the people.
Yeah,
We know a lot of the same people. But
yeah,
again,
yeah.
I do not have permission to mention, so I will not.
Well,
But
yeah, and then it's kind of funny because of what you said you did. I then got into I was in radio advertising in Chicago at WYN,
yeah,
and then I went into air freight, truck freight, shipping for 15 years,
oh, funny.
and I went to the opening of the FedEx new facility at O'Hare when they opened their new cargo facility, and I met Fred, the CEO,
Yes.
and he sent me a personal letter. He was very impressed with me.
Oh,
So,
how sweet.
yeah,
How what? Yeah, he was a very special man.
I loved Fred. He was amazing, amazing man. So anyway, so you transitioned into Federal Express.
Well, and then on to I at a certain point I decided that I wanted to do something more meaningful again. And I went to work for the University of Houston, heading up their marketing department for, excuse me, for their alumni organization. By the way, there's stuff in bloom here in Vegas. You've got a beautiful scenery, and I have beautiful scenery out my window, and my body's like, yeah, everything's in bloom. So that's what's going on over here for me. And anyways, long story short, I was helping to raise money for the university, and the money was going into athletics. And there's, athletics is important. And I really felt that I could be doing more. And so I had the opportunity through this university to teach classes for the Small Business Development Center. And the curriculum that I was asked to take over and teach was like training solopreneurs to act like Coca-Cola. They didn't have the money, they didn't have the time, they didn't have the staff, they didn't have the knowledge. Entrepreneurs get into business because they have a passion for something. Usually they have more passion than they'll ever have money, unfortunately. And this is what I kept seeing over and over again. Oh no, this can't be. So I decided to start coaching entrepreneurs, and I did that 25 years ago, and I've been full-time ever since. And that is my love, to be able to help an entrepreneur make money as quickly as possible while finding their voice, finding their ideal audience, and serving that ideal audience in a way that is soul satisfying. And voila, that's me the last 25 years.
Wow, and that's your passion now.
That's my passion, and I call it Go for Yes, and it's transforming ourselves from being a searchlight into a lighthouse.
That's amazing. That's a great story. So see, that's why I never like to ask questions before my show, because I feel like connecting the dots in life are just so cool. And I have gotten to learn so much more from people, and I feel like spontaneity in life is so imperative. I think we live in such a world of so much control, and it's like I got to know what I'm going to do every minute of the day. So people get anxious sometimes coming on my show because they're like, "You got to tell me what we're talking about." And I go, "Nah, just be, my new thing I came up with, Stacy, a couple of years ago, is show up in life sometimes with no intention. We show up in life with so much intention all the time that it stresses us out. And so if you could sometimes show up in life with no intention and just let it flow, it's like amazing what we create. The creation is beautiful.
I hear you. I do. And I love synchronicities. And absolutely,
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. So I just love to just have fun with my guests on my show. So, and I think a lot of times people come on and it's like, I have to talk my business. And I'm like, no, I want to get to know you. It's like, after all those years, Stacy, in outside sales, 39 years of being highly successful in sales, my customers who bought from me always said, Jill, I didn't buy from the company. I always bought from you
Sure.
because I always felt like you were my partner. And so I feel like when I invite a guest on the show, and I really want to give that guest the ability to have visibility in attraction marketing. I want my guests to know you because if they select to reach out to you, they're going to reach out to you because of you, not because of a little tagline or because there are so many taglines today, Stacy. There are so many life coaches, there's so many business coaches, and I really am one to believe that if I'm going to reach out, I'm going to reach out because I really like you and I want
Yeah.
to connect with you. So I'm going to give you the space. Is there anything you would like the audience to know more about you where they'd say, wow, she's amazing. I really want to reach out to her? Because I'm going to show your bio at the end, so I want to give you
Well,
the
that's what I'm
space.
saying. You told me you were going to share my bio anyway. No, there isn't anything I want to say about me. What I would like to do is help your audience know something more about themselves.
Okay.
Because I really do believe the most important thing ever is people don't want to know how much we know. And I've already shared what I know and why I know it, but they want to know how much we care about them. And so, if anything, the most important thing in the world to me is to leave people with a smile on their face. So, what I'd like to do is give everybody an opportunity to check in with themselves. And I have a guided way I do that every day and as often during the day as I possibly can. And I believe that we are made up of 4 bodies, Jill, not just one body, but there's within one body, there's actually 4 bodies. And the first is the physical body of the hair and the nails and the bones and the organs and the blood. And I invite people to check in with that body and find out on a scale of 1 to 10, what score does your physical body give to itself right now? Obviously, I'm not a 10 because of this, and I'm pretty close. I'm about an 8.5. So I'm not going to ask anybody what your score is, but you'll know your score. And then you can say to your physical body, what do you need me to do for you so you can come up to a 10? And there's a process that I do for my body that I didn't do yet today. And that's what my body said, please go do that. Okay, I'll go do that. And I thank my physical body for talking to me. And then I go to my emotional body, the body of my feelings and my emotions. And I say, okay, emotional body on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being you're very upset, feeling disoriented and sad. And on a 10 scale, everything is great. You're in enthusiasm, ready to conquer the world. What score do you give to yourself? And my emotional body was earlier, it was less than a 10. And I asked it and it told me what to do. And now I'm a 10. I'm good here. Hopefully you can feel that. Like I'm just rolling with you and all is well. So if it wasn't a 10, I would do exactly what I did earlier. So what do you need me to do for you to come up for a 10? It told me, I did it. I'm at a 10. The next, I go to my mental body, the thoughts, and I ask my mind, on a scale of 1 to 10 mind, what's the score you give to yourself right now? 1 is thoughts are chaotic and scattered. 10 is they're focused. I'm clear-headed. My thoughts are pretty calm. And I say, what is your score? My mind is saying to me right now, 9.5. As soon as the nose gets cleared up, I'll be even more clear-headed. And I'm good, pretty good. Okay, and I already know how I'm going to deal with the congestion, so I'm going to move forward. So there you've got your score, and you can ask your mind, what does it need for you to be more clear-headed and focused? And then I come into the part of me that I consider the spirit part, the spirit body. Now, for some people, that might not be religion. For other people, it is. But it's the part of me that is connected to divine source, whatever that would be for anyone. And I say on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being very connected and receiving divine guidance, and 1 being not so much, as they say, but way at the other end of the scale, what score does my spirit body give to itself? And I get my score, and right now it's very much a 10 because I love teaching people this process of connecting in, and I feel it was given to me that I was divinely guided to know to do this. And I'm good. For other people, there might be something that you'd want to do in order to bring your spirit body to attend right now. And then I think all my bodies, and I am so much more present, so much more available to people, so much more able to feel confident within myself, that this is, I feel, the best practice, the best tip that I could ever offer to anybody, especially somebody who would love to be able to make a difference in other people's lives faster and leave a legacy that lives on long after they're gone. So Jill, thanks. I hope, I know that you weren't expecting me to do that. So
yeah, I absolutely, and it's in total alignment with where I call my higher power God. I'm a Christian, and it's in total alignment to what I feel God's led me for 2021, which is hope, health, and healing, and inspiring hope and health and healing in the world this year is so impactful that I'm doing my first virtual event, Stacy, March 12th, on hope, health, and healing. If I would have known you, I would have had you as my guest speaker. But we'll be doing more of these. So I think
I'll look forward to it.
Yeah, because I think that's really an important thing. And what I love about what you said at the very, very end, Stacy, is where you said, and by doing this, you leave an amazing legacy. And one of the speakers that I'm going to have at my event on March 12th is Dr. Laura Wood, who's a world-renowned drama therapist. She actually was the keynote speaker at the mental health conference in New York 2 years ago. And she's done burden release work with me, where she's taught people how to take legacy burdens ancestrally back 4 generations. And as you take the burdens of your ancestrally bondage back, you take each one back. So you could take, say, a burden, for example, of not good enough, let's just say, and you can take it from you and bring it back to your mother, from your mother to your grandmother to your great grandmother, to see where that burden existed. But this is why I love the burden release, is when you get to the very back, you then bring back the blessing into the ancestral line. So you bring back, I'm good enough. I'm good. My great grandmother was good enough. My grandmother was good enough. My mother was good enough, and I am good enough. So you take that healing, you take the burden and release it, and you bring the blessing back in. And it's called burden release work. It's
beautiful.
It's a gorgeous thing. Couple other things I'd love to ask. I really want to know. I want to spend just a couple of minutes on this, if you could. Would you share just a tidbit of whatever knowledge you could from these amazing books, the Chi book and your amazing philosophy of turning that no into a yes, the yes word? Tell us just a little bit about that so we can have a glimpse of what you do.
Okay, well, let me explain how the two came to be. So returning back to the story about my dad and how I developed the concept to go for yes. I did it always was there within me. We'll just say inspired from the time I was old enough to think about business. And I was probably still in college. This thought came in that if I was destined to be of service to somebody, they must be destined to be served by me, not by anybody else. So the idea of competition went away. So how could there be competition? And I still sometimes I still will buy into that for a brief moment, and then I have to go, no, remember, Stacy, people who are destined to be served by you are destined to be served by you. Even if somebody attempts to, it's not going to work out. So just let it be. So that led to, well, then how are we meant to meet? How are two people who are destined to do business together, let's say, or two people who are destined to be married together, how are they supposed to meet? And then I got this vision of, well, if both people are chasing around looking, they're just going in circles around each other, never meeting up. So somebody has to stand still and act like the lighthouse and stop being the searchlight. So that's why the lighthouse is my anchor. And then I started thinking about, okay, what does a lighthouse do? And my father, again, I don't know if this is why he collected them. I never got a chance to ask him, but my father was fascinated by lighthouses, and he had them, he collected them, and I have some of his. This was a gift someone gave me, but it's not his. I've got others. And I was helping clear out his things and looking at all these lighthouses, and all of a sudden that's when I realized especially in business, have to be the lighthouse. Our business has to be like that, standing tall, believing in ourselves. Every lighthouse does the same thing, but it does it in a different spot. Every lighthouse has different paint on it, different markings, and every lighthouse has a different signal. Like the light is not the same light. It doesn't pulse the same. And I thought that's just so fascinating. What an amazing metaphor for people in business. And so how do we become attractive? And 20 years ago, my first book came out, Attracting Perfect Customers. It was the first book on the concept of attraction marketing. And the idea of there are people ready to say yes to us. We do not have to be prepared to do battle, because if you expect people to say no, yes, set up a confrontational situation. And Jill, as you talked about, you never did that. You were successful because you decided everybody was going to be your friend.
Well, it was, yeah, it wasn't even that. It wasn't even that I expected. I had a very very similar circumstance as you, Stacy, to the point where, again, I was a Christian. So whenever I went out on sales calls, before I walked into the door for the appointments, because I mean I did a lot of cold calling too, so I had a really good ratio of even being able to get past the gatekeeper just on a cold call. So when I would get into an appointment, I'd sit in my car almost every time. It's very similar to your check-ins with the four bodies. I would sit in the car and say, Father God, you know, and let's hypothetically say an appointment with you. You know Stacy more than I do. You know what her business needs are. You know what she really needs in her business to make it run efficiently. So as I walk in the door today, let me hear what Stacy's needs are, Father God, and if I can help meet her needs, let Stacy know that I'm the person to buy from. And if I cannot meet Stacy's needs, maybe what I can do is direct her in a path that maybe I even have a better offering. And I'm letting you know, Stacy, when I sold hotel properties, sometimes I get the bride to be to come in that wanted to book a group of rooms. And I'd sit and talk with her, and she would say, yeah, I'd like to get 10 rooms, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, well, can you tell me where your wedding reception is? And if she said her wedding reception was 30 minutes away, I would say, can I assist you in finding a hotel within a 5-mile radius? Because when people are drinking, you don't want them to drink and drive.
That's right.
And most hotels offer free shuttles. And they'd sit there and go, wow, you're going to like help me find a different hotel and you're not going to get the sale. I said, absolutely. I want this to be a seamless wedding for you and your guests.
That's right.
And so when you're always, like you said, going at it with competition or what's in it for me, you're really not serving the customer. You want to serve the customer so they get their needs met, not your needs met.
It's again, they don't care how much we know. They don't care how great our hotel is. They're going to remember that you cared so much. I mean, unless, it goes back to Miracle on 34th Street, right? Where the Santa Claus referred somebody to Gimbel's instead of Macy's.
Exactly.
But that is human nature. And people remember when we put them before ourselves. Now, that leads me to my second book. So the first book, and which has now been updated and now is called Go for Yes, is a 4-step process of getting in alignment with ourselves, getting in alignment with our ideal audience, learning how to solve our ideal audience's problems because we know them so well, and then where to meet them and what to say to them so that they feel how much we care. That's Go for Yes. And I do have 5 videos, the 5-video training, no charge. So Jill, I don't know how you're going to have people contact me, but they can actually get my whole Go for Yes
Mm.
5-day training or 5 video training. It's up to you. You can do it all in 5 hours for absolutely no charge
Wow,
if they
that's an
just ask
amazing
me.
gift. That is an amazing gift. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So this is what I've been teaching for more than 20 years, and thousands upon thousands of people. And every day I wake up and I get these marvelous messages, and they aren't just messages of Stacy, I loved reading your book. It's Stacy, I put into practice, and oh my God, I just got 2 more sales. And on my group, I've got 20 people who want to pay me to teach them, and it just goes on and on. I've enrolled, this week on my own teams. I've got my folks doing their own enrolling. I'm not doing the work for them anymore. If people are in network marketing watching, many times leaders do the enrolling and then you put them under people in order to be able to build your business. I don't do that. I attract my own, and I teach my folks how to attract their own, and they do. And it's far more satisfying
Wow.
for them.
That's great. I love that. I love that. So I know you're on a hard hour here with other things, so I want to be respectful of your time. In closing, I ask a couple of fun questions. Number one, I ask if you'd be willing to share one fun fact about you.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything fun that I can tell you? Uh, well, how about a little embarrassing fact?
Anything
I'll
you
say
want.
that. All
Anything
right.
you want.
No, I'm just being extremely vulnerable. All right. I had the opportunity to be the lead baton twirler, for the Rose Bowl parade when I was a kid, because I did grow up in Southern California. And I was really, really good at twirling my baton. The problem was, if you've ever seen a drum majorette, I think this is what it was called. You know how you walk and then you twist, throw the baton up in the air,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to twirl around and then catch it?
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't catch it because I'd throw it up in the air and then I would duck. I'm not kidding. Could not break me of ducking. So they to the Rose Bowl parade.
That's
Yeah.
that's a fun fact. The other fun question I love to ask as I interview is if you were told today, which today probably is a lot different now than it was 5 months ago, if someone told you today you had to get rid of all your apps on your cell phone and you could only keep two, which two would you must keep?
Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook and access to my Gmail. That's it. Facebook and my email. That would be it. I actually don't have that many apps on my phone because I schedule for success, and I also keep my phone on silent all day long so that I can check it when I want to check it, and anybody who would absolutely need to get a hold of me, God forbid, in an emergency, would know how to do that. So I'm not really dependent on apps. I'm one of those kinds of girls.
That's awesome. Well, as I had mentioned a little earlier, that I felt led that this year I was supposed to be talking about hope, health, and healing. So, in closing, I'd like to ask you the word hope. I love, when I was growing up, Stacy, I didn't have much of an education. I was left to learn things all on my own. And so I really had a hard time understanding what words meant. So I'd love to go to the dictionary and read words. So the word hope means to cherish a desire with anticipation, to want something to happen to be true, hoping for a promotion, hoping for the best. But biblically, hope is commonly used to mean a wish. Its strength is the strength that the person's desire. But in the Bible, it is the confident expectation of what God has promised, and its strength is in his faithfulness. What is your hope for 2021?
Well, that last part that you just read about trusting in God, I have a favorite prayer. So this is how I'm going to answer that. My favorite prayer is from the Old Testament. It's the prayer of Jabez. Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. That's the entire prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that I live by those words every minute of every day, and then I let God guide me, that I'm holding on to God's hand in every moment. And so that's my only hope.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Health. The word health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. There's three components of health, and you mentioned the four bodies. Um, the health triangle is physical, social, mental, and I always think spiritual too. Um, Biblical health is defined in seven areas of the abundant life that Christ refers to in John 10:10. You need to take care of them all to experience true biblical health: spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, financial, occupational, and social. Each area of your life is connected to all the others. What does health mean to you?
I believe in everything you just said. And if I was going to sum it up, I would say it's when we no longer sell out on ourselves. And I know it's an unusual definition, but in order to be able to have full health because health means within myself, I'm at that 10 level. It means that I'm willing to take care of me. And I learned what it meant because earlier I said about putting other people's cares first. I mean that when I'm in the selling process in my business. I no longer mean that in every aspect of my life. In order for me to be able to be there for somebody fully, I first have to take care of myself. So I sell myself to myself first and stop selling out on myself in order to help others.
I love that. My definition of codependency is when we allow people, places, or things to become more important than ourselves, that we lose our identity. And when we hear the word codependency, many times we think of it as just people. But codependency can be places, like our job becomes more important. Even our church, some people become addicted. And so, the church is more important than even themselves. And then things are like sex, drugs, alcohol, food, money become so important that you lose your own identity. So I love that. The last word is healing. Healing defined is to make free from injury or disease, to make sound or whole, like healing a wound, to make well again. What the Bible says is, heal me, Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved. For you are the one I praise. And the people all tried to touch him, because power was coming from him and healing them all. But I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord. What does spiritual healing mean to you?
I don't think I can improve on what you just read because that is the source. And yeah, that was beautiful.
Hmm. Well, I have been truly blessed to get to know you. And, as you have declared in this interview today, that it's never by accident that God brought us together. We both found each other on Facebook. And I remember when you said, now, what are we supposed to be talking about? Or how did we find each other? What do you need? And I'm like, and I think I recalled when you said that to me, I said, I have no idea, Stacy. Like, I am just living life with intention. And if you reached out to me, God sent you to me, and vice versa. When I then
Vice
said to
versa.
you, I said, I would like to interview you. And you said, well, what about? I said, I don't know. I don't like to know, because God is so divine that he knows exactly what the audience needed today. He knows that you were supposed to be here. And so I'm just a vessel that's showing up and listening to when he says, ask Stacy to be on the show. I say, okay, Stacy, would you like to be on the show? And that's all there is to life. We make it so complex.
Right. That's right. To me, that is the prayer of Jabez. Like, well, how do you want me to expand my territory for you today, God?
Yeah.
All right, here we're doing this. And, before the call, we had a little bit of the technology screwed up the time on us. And I was like, okay, if God doesn't want it to happen today, it's all right. But as it turned out, God did, and everything got worked out just
Yep.
perfectly. And that's it. There were so many years I used to stress and try to control, and it was all futile.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, I am going to end here because you had 45 minutes and we got 1 minute left for the outro video. So thanks so much, audience, for joining us on the Connection Show. And just to let you know again that we do meet 3 times per month for Connection Circles so that you can connect with others. We are doing this year with story. So please listen in because people are going to get very vulnerable this year and share their story to help you also connect your dots. So thank you so much. And I want to end with showing your bio real quick. This is Stacy's bio. It's got her website where you can go to and get those free videos she had mentioned as well, and to reach out to her as well professionally. These will be on the YouTube channels. So thanks again for joining us, Stacy, and have a most blessed day. A blessed day to you.
To you as well, Jill. It has been a joy and a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Connection Show. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye now. Thanks for joining us on the Connection Show. Let's connect now. Let's restore, renew, and reconnect in community. Enhance connection in our online connection circles. It's a place to meet up, gather, and feel welcomed. To join us, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Click on the Books Podcast tab and then the Connection Circles drop-down. On the pop-up, join our Connection Circles Facebook group. Our circles meet from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Share story, topics, and laughter with men and women. To learn more about Connection Circles, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Thanks for joining us on the Connection Show and have a great day.